Good day, everyone, and welcome back. I just watched episode 10 of the Aerois campaign, so yeah, I'm a little bit late, but I've been kinda busy, so we'll just get straight into it then, because there's a lot to go over, because oh god, a lot happened. Anyway, so to start things off, because Katie has to be out away for quite some time, Ayla just leaves while Nova's sleeping. She leaves a note behind. The official reason is she's going off to look for wild elves. We'll see if anything comes of that, though. Moving quickly on from that, Nova has a conversation with Quill and Sentry about fusing the hammer with Tiangong. Quill sounds surprised when Nova calls him the unofficial leader during this, and he does end up becoming the leader of the group, at least for now. He also doesn't really seem to trust Tiangong, and I don't really blame him because, you know, when something's requesting power, it's normally not for anything good. Anyway, we do end up learning a little bit more about Nova and Tiangong. The pact with the weapon was essentially made the moment she found it, and she describes it as a very symbiotic relationship, which is actually a really good way of describing how warlocks work, especially the Hexblade Warlock, because it is a very symbiotic relationship where the Warlock needs the weapon, but the weapon also needs the Warlock, depending on how you're playing it. They do, however, end up allowing her to fuse Gadwin's hammer with Tiangong, thus turning it into a short blade, some sort of large dagger type thing. During this time, Quill decided that he would do a little bit of general investigating to see what he could find, just the general opinion of the Brookstone, specifically Brett Brookstone. The general perception that the town has of him is that he's somewhat selfish, and he essentially only thinks about himself and his family. People have never really had trouble specifically with him, but because of how he hires people only based on how hard they work and not any, like, their background or stuff, they tend to have a bit of trouble with his employees. They end up going to talk to Dasa and discussing about turning the wyvern hide into armor. She suggests studded leather, and they leave it with her for delivery to Gold Throne when they eventually get there. I do like how Mark's doing the wyvern hide. I don't know if there is official, like, wyvern hide armor in one of the source books. I haven't looked into that. But it just ignores the first 5 points of poison damage from an attack on a hit, so that is actually really nice to see, as opposed to just giving straight-up resistance. With all such dealings done, they end up going to the Brookstones. The Brookstones are a family of 8 with 6 kids, 2 of which are currently working at the moment. At least they seem to be. The meal passes without issue. Dessert ended up being interrupted by the Field Marshal, who appeared in full kit. Something quite serious had happened at the Brazen Heart. As it turns out, when they arrived, Yusuf and Korin had both been slaughtered, and Valor was missing. Taken by an incredibly tall, muscular man who seemingly vanished whenever he entered into shadows. The entire scene left the party shocked, which, holy crap, the roleplay in that situation was really, really good. I'm not even going to try and explain it. Just, if you haven't seen it, I suggest going and do so now. But they immediately decide without hesitation that they need to find Valor. Quill really steps up. His timidness just completely vanishes, as now that somebody that he really cares about and doesn't really have much of a means of defending themselves is in danger, he's like, okay, we need to deal with this, we need to deal with this now, what's going to happen? They end up finding some information from Rel, who claims to have seen the man. He was about 7 foot tall, grey skin, tattooed, what you generally expect from a typical description of a Goliath. She believes that the individual was following the shadows, not heading south, however, as he seemed to suddenly vanish upon entering the alleyway. Using Quill's insane perception, they managed to somehow track him by going like, okay, so if he went here, where's the best patch of shadows next? Over there, go over there. Okay, there's more tracks here, where's the next best patch? And using that, they deduced that he could perhaps teleport between 30 and 40 feet, somewhere in that range. Which does sort of strike out my theory that it was a Shadow Sorcerer, a level 14 Shadow Sorcerer, as the range for their Shadow Walk is 120 feet. But, oh well, it might still be related to that somewhat. Lucius does come to the same conclusion that I did, that the Court of Shadows was after Valor when the ship crashed, and this was them trying to finish the job. Through Echo, the party determines that the assault was in fact carried out by a group who rode off on horseback. Chances are there was only the one person who attacked them, and then the rest were acting as some sort of escort to get them from maybe point A to B, or something like that. They split up to collect both Arvel and procure horses. Arvel looks absolutely pissed when they get there, ready to hunt down the murderers. Like, he is really angry, and it's a very intense situation. Like, the first half of the session was really slow, and it had a very casual feeling to it. But the rest of the session was very intense, and it had this overarching feeling of, oh god, we need to do something quickly. Mark essentially forced a hard reset on their rations by leaving them with 2 days worth, and saying that any that they would have had previously would have gone off by now, which is fair. And I do appreciate that he is factoring that in, because I feel like rations and all that are going to be really important. What I've gotten so far from the early episodes of Aerois, and coming back into this, is it's going to be quite hardcore when it comes to survival situations, which I really do appreciate. While exploring the forest, Mark has them take up 4 different roles: the navigator, the lookout, the vanguard, and the rearguard. That's probably just to split up the roles, or to make it a bit more intense, or maybe a bit more challenging to go through like tracking and survival situations. So I really like that inclusion there. At the end of the day, they end up coming across an encampment of beastwalkers, which are humanoids with animalistic traits, which to me sound quite similar to the shifters from the Eberron setting. So now that we have both the Guardians and the beastwalkers, which have comparable Eberron setting equivalents, I'm sort of interested to see where they differ. This particular group appears to have some stag-like traits. They approach and manage to convince them to give at least a little bit of aid. They're given food, which saves them a lot of rations, and they're offered a spot by the fire for a small time at least. The father of the family, because it was a family of beastwalkers that they came across, saw the group that they are pursuing and watched them pass cautiously. The Goliath keeps some strange company. There's 2 quite young individuals, maybe late teens, from how Mark described them, that looked quite practiced and ready for hunting, which is possibly the Brookstone children, which indicates that they are perhaps in league with the Court of Shadows? Or this is just something completely unrelated, but I don't think it is. And then finally, the 3rd individual appeared to be some kind of miner. It's more than likely an employee of the Brookstones, but what he's doing with them, I'm not terribly sure yet. Maybe he's just some extra muscle to help out in case Valor tried to make things more difficult for them. The party is taken to a small grove to rest safely. The long rest goes uninterrupted, and they are back on the trail soon after. Eventually, Lucius does notice the Goliath hiding in the shadows nearby, watching them. They pretend to not see him, which seems to work, and they start to circle off in another direction while sending Echo to tail the Goliath stealthily. They manage to see the remnants of a campfire before Echo is suddenly attacked and completely destroyed by the Goliath, having noticed it approaching. Echo's destruction caused Sentry some psychic damage due to her connection to him, and that is where the session left off. Now, with the destruction of Echo, I don't know what's going to happen there. As it does appear to be a racial trait, chances are that Sentry will be able to repair him in some way. Maybe they'll need to collect the body, and then it's then returned to her own form, and then the mystical powers of her robotic form then repair it, or maybe a new one manifests. I don't know what's happening there. But they're in hot pursuit at the moment, and the Goliath is well aware of their presence, so I'm very nervous to see what happens next. Anyway, that's really all I have for this week. I hope you enjoyed. If I missed anything or overlooked anything that you think is important, then please let me know. Otherwise, cheers, and I might see you next time. Bye.